Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk about boats. Well, yes, boats. I want to talk about the invasion, the fleets, the flotillas, the armadas of boats which are daily arriving on our shores, threatening to overwhelm us, to wreck our economy, and just cause untold damage. This massive problem. And as the former Home Secretary Priti Patel said, a lot of them contain people who are child rapists and murderers, and they're coming here to the UK in order to rape our children and murder people. And as Suella Braverman said only last week, there are 100 million of them waiting to come here. We were warned at one time there were 90 million Turkish people who wanted to come and live here, but fortunately we left the EU and Turkey didn't join anyway, so that we escaped them. But we've now got 100 million people. I'm not sure how many of them are in Calais, but they'll be massing there soon, ready to come and destroy our way of life. These dreadful evil people, and most of them are economic migrants. None of them are really escaping torture or murder or imprisonment. Now, you can call me a cynic, but I don't think this whole business has anything to do with little boats crossing the Channel. This whole business is all about the Tories whipping up support amongst the Red Wall seats for harsh measures against somebody a minority who can be victimised. This has happened so many times in history, as we all know, about how disreputable or wicked rulers have sought to deliberately victimise a minority, and it's very easy to get people worked up and get people to focus their anger against a minority. And I was thinking the other day, since the referendum, we've got to a stage here where we have a country full of people. Some people are very clever, some people are well educated, some people are less so, some people are not very well educated, not very clever, some people are really stupid. And it seems to me that with our electoral system, our first past the post system, all focus is now on people in the Red Wall seats. These are people who are generally in areas that are more deprived. They're probably not terribly well educated, and they're probably people who are struggling more than anybody else, but still think that taking back control was the right thing to do. And these are the sort of people who get all their political information. They're not interested in politics anyway. They get the political information from the Daily Express and the Daily Mail and Steve down the pub, who used to belong to the National Front and has very strong views on just about any political matter, which are extremely right wing. And so these are the people that the government is targeting, because looking around at the moment, everything is in such a state. If you look at the economy, you look at the state of the National Health Service, you look at the sewage and the rivers, and just everything you look at is bad, is worse than it was, and everything is completely out of control. And so you get this message focused at the people who are going to decide whether or not you win the next election. You focus a nice, simple, easy message like, we must stop these terrible asylum seekers who are such a massive problem for the country. Of course, the fact they're costing £6 million a day, that's another good point. That's another thing to get people very, very cross. Throw away billions on PPE, and throw away billions on all sorts of corrupt ventures where Conservative supporters have benefited considerably. No matter of corruption matters anything like on the scale of some people coming here seeking political asylum. Now we have this rather absurd situation at the moment whereby Sunak, who was very pro-Brexit and who believed that we should take back control of our borders, is, as I speak now, it's Friday, he's on his way to Paris to ask the President of France to help us take back control of our borders. You can't make that sort of thing up. It's just so absurd. But the government say that their policy is going to be they're going to go after the people smugglers. And Labour say exactly the same. Now, I have to be very careful if I say anything negative about the Labour Party. I said something bad about, or I said something negative about Starmer last week and lost loads and loads of subscribers and so on. Obviously, between Labour and Conservatives, there is no comparison. I mean, you would vote a million times more for Labour than for this present government, which must be the worst government we've ever had. But nonetheless, I'm going to say this morning, Stephen Kinnock, who's responsible for immigration and so on, shadow responsible, he said on Twitter, he said Labour will crack down on criminal smuggler gangs. That's what he's going to do, the crack down on it. And the Conservatives have said something very similar from time to time. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how utterly absurd that is. How totally unrealistic that is. You know, it's a bit like saying, well, we're going to crack down on crime because we're going to chase the criminals. I think that the politicians somehow think that the people are the people smugglers. I think they think that there's a guy who's come from somewhere, another country, and he's rented a huge, great mansion just outside Calais, and he's got all these sidekicks, all these henchmen who come in and out in Mercedes with tinted windows, and he's got a little shop in the high street in Calais where it says if you want to go to the UK, come in and book your ticket here, and you go in and you pay your money across the counter, and they say, well, we've got one sailing tomorrow and there's another one tomorrow evening that may be cancelled if the police are on the beach, but nonetheless, which one would you like? And do you want to pay by credit card? It doesn't work like that. Let me just tell you how I think it might work. There are a few guys, big guys living in Knightsbridge or Chelsea or Kensington, worth millions and millions and millions, drive around in big, flash, £200,000-300,000 cars, eat in all the best restaurants. They spend a lot of time flying around. They might even got their own plane, but they spend a lot of time going to Dubai, and they go to Turkey a lot, and they go to America, and they go around the world. And these guys, they've got a whole load of businesses in the UK, all over the UK, businesses that are laundering money, say. Maybe involved in drugs. They're employing lots of illegal people who are not entitled to work here. They've got all these businesses. They're very nimble, very experienced. They're not directly connected to any of them, but they are via subordinates. And they have lieutenants, and some of the lieutenants, maybe they're based in Dubai, and they get hold of a guy who is in Turkey, and he orders some rubber dinghies from a firm in Germany, and he pays. Everything's done over the dark web or via tax havens and so on, so the money cannot be traced. So he pays for these boats, and he has them delivered to Belgium. And when they get to Belgium, they're delivered to a lock-up stall, which is rented for a month in a false name by another guy who nobody really knows. Nobody ever knows anyone more than the person immediately above them or below them. Even quite often they don't even know them. So this guy's got this lock-up, and then in the camps in Calais, for example, a guy turns up one day and he says to some of the guys, he says, or one or two of the guys takes and says, you want to go to the UK? Well, it's $4,500 if you want to go. And they say, well, maybe we haven't got quite enough money and so on. They say, well, the guy says, well, if you do us a favour, we can probably let you go free. So you say, okay, and then he says to one of these guys, he'll say, I'll send you a text and I'll give you an address. Go to that address at the time I tell you. There'll be a van waiting there. Get that van, drive to this address in Brussels. I'll give you a key to a lock-up. Go to the lock-up, empty it, bring all the stuff back here, it's rubber dinghies, and then park the van where you left it. And then he's got some other guys. He says, look, on a particular time, if you want a free trip, you just help us by get the boats out of the van, which will come here, blow them up, and if you do this for 3 weeks, then we'll give you a free trip. Nobody knows anybody. People in France, people in Belgium, people in Germany, the suppliers, people in Turkey, people in Dubai, guy in London, Mr. Big. And the government's going to go after them. The opposition are going to go after them. How do you do that? these people are not stupid. These people are so clever. You know, the whole world is full of drug dealers. They've all got Mr. Biggs, they've got lieutenants, and they've got the people right down the road, right down to the people who are on the street dealing in drugs. And who gets caught? Like in this particular instance I've just described, you know, the people who get caught are the guys who go and take the boats down onto the beach for the people to get in, the asylum seekers to get in. And they're the ones who get nabbed. And then it'll be all over the papers. 2 people smugglers were arrested in Calais. They're going to go to prison and all the rest of it. They're clamping down on it. It is impossible to beat organised crime on this scale when there's so much money involved. And if you were to knock anybody out, they will immediately be replaced by somebody else, because there are so many people ready to jump into such a profitable business. And they're all making money all the way down, especially Mr. Big in London or in Dubai, wherever he happens to be. And by the time you get to him, he'll have gone anyway. So it is a complete nonsense, and it's fooling people to say that's what we're going to do, that's how we're going to stop it. You cannot stop it. The only way you will solve this problem of people coming across in boats is by having safe routes and safe countries where people can leave whichever country they're escaping from and go to a British embassy and actually apply. And then, if they get permission to come, they can come. If they don't get permission to come, they're turned down. If then they come and go across in a boat, well, then arrest them, then deport them, do what you like with them then, because they're coming illegally. But all these desperate people who are going to be coming in future, who have been told now, no matter how desperate their situation, whatever they're escaping from, they will be treated as criminals as soon as they arrive. That is madness. That is absolutely madness. And of course it offends against everything, including decency. And then the other thing, of course, is the cost of the hotels. We're told they're costing £6 million a year. Well, of course they are, because it's all farmed out to private companies. There are 3 private companies who actually organise the they book the Premier Hotel or whatever, and so on. They put these people up. One of them is Serco, of course, because they're involved in every possible possible source of funds from the government that is going, it seems. But anyway, there's a firm called Clear Springs. They're based in Kent, and they are one of the 3 companies that has a contract to house these people. In the year ended 2020, January 2020, they made a profit of £800,000. That's quite a lot of profit, but it's quite a big company. They employ a lot of people and so on. They've got a lot of accommodation to provide. But just 2 years later, their profit was 27 million. So there's a private company, they're making £27 million profit a year. And this was before the big influx last year. So next year, probably the profit's going to be 2 or 3 times as much, who knows. And you have to ask, this accommodation is required because people have to wait so long for a decision from the Home Office. Months and months and months, sometimes years they have to wait. And if you think about it, a lot of these, for example, are in Premier Inns and so on. Nothing wrong with Premier Inns. They're perfectly basic, and it's a great place to stay overnight if you're travelling somewhere and you want to get up in the morning, have a shower and go, it's fine. But if you have to live in one of those rooms for a year, and you're perhaps sharing it with 3 or 4 other people, I know the Tories will say, well, you shouldn't have come here in the first place, but if that's how you have to live, the effect on your mental health must be really, I would have thought must be really... it must have an effect. But anyhow, it's taking all this time to process these claims. And I considering that the vast majority are accepted, the vast majority of people are given permission to stay, why does it take so long? We're told that it takes, 15 months a lot of the time on average, I believe, to process one of these claims. And I can tell you about someone, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, but it's quite interesting. It gives you some idea. I know a guy, very nice guy. He comes from the East, and he came to the UK to go to university. Came about 10 years ago, and he came, paid all his university fees and his accommodation, all the rest of it. And he graduated, and then he thought, I can get a girlfriend or something. He said, I'd like to stay. So he went to the Home Office and he said to the Home Office, can I have? And they said to him, right, well, what are your grounds for wanting to stay here? And he said, well, his father had been involved in opposition politics in his country, and had been in prison for a short while, and he was worried that he would be in danger if he went back. Now, privately, this guy said, I'm not going to get away with it. I don't suppose they'll let me stay. And he said, I'm quite ready for a negative response, and I'm ready to go home. I'll go right away if they ask me to tell me to go. But what they said to him also was, listen, whilst you're waiting for a decision, you must not work. You must not work. Now, how is he supposed to live? This is a guy 22 years old or something. How is he supposed to pay his rent? How is he supposed to survive whilst he's waiting? Well, if it was 2 weeks, maybe he could. Maybe he'd borrow some money, don't know, whatever. He could survive a couple of weeks. It is now 6.5 years since he first applied, and he's still waiting. And every 3 weeks he has to go back to the Home Office and sign to say that he's still here. And if he'd come across in one of the boats 6 years ago, he would be in a Premier Inn room somewhere, and he would have been for the last 6 years at a cost of whatever it costs. And you think with a case like that, I mean, maybe a lot of this is very complicated. Maybe there are things I don't understand. I don't know. But it seems to me that somebody comes to you with a story like that, you just send an email to the embassy in the country he comes from, the British embassy. You say, look, this guy's told us this story. He says this is his father. He says he went to prison. You just check it out. Is it safe for him to come back, or is it not safe for him to come back? The embassy will either say, yes, it's fine, he can come back, and he's telling you a tale, or they'll come back, or they'll reply saying, no, it's not really safe, in which case, give him asylum, he's gone. The whole thing's dealt with in 2 or 3 weeks. Instead of that, 6 years later, he's earned probably in that time £250,000 maybe. He's been working very hard, long hours. He hasn't paid 1 penny in tax. If he gets ill, because he's waiting a decision from the Home Office, he can use the NHS. I mean, what sort of system is that? And when you've got all these people in these so-called hotels waiting, idle hands, and we've got so many people like the guy I described, Mr. Big, with his companies all over the country, laundering money and so on, and they know there are all these people waiting for a decision. I mean, it's just there's a whole reservoir of people who are prepared to do all sorts of things. Now, this particular guy I was telling you, he was working for one of these firms one day, and immigration turned up. I think there were about 12 people working there, of whom 3 of them, him and 2 others, were illegals. Immigration turned up. Of course, a big operation. They saw 3 vans and 30 people and so on, and they all crash in and interview everybody. And he was interviewed, and they found out that he wasn't supposed to be there, and they found the other 2 weren't supposed to be there. So they told them, listen, you're not supposed to be working. Go away. Don't work again. Naughty boys. So off they went. The owners of the company was involved in some sort of dodgy activities. They said to them, £10,000 fine for each of the 3 people, £30,000 in fines. If you pay within 21 days, you get a 30% discount. So they ended up paying £21,000, which was water off a duck's back. It was nothing to them. They paid the money. That evening, my guy, who'd been told never ever to work again and all the rest of it, was contacted by the owner of this business saying, well, tomorrow you better go to the other warehouse. And so from the next day onwards, he worked at the other warehouse. I think eventually he returned to the same place. In other words, the whole thing's just out of control. When you've got 160,000 people cooped up, waiting indefinitely, there's that expression that the devil makes work for idle hands. I mean, and I think it's another aspect of all these people coming across the channel. I think until quite recently, almost all of them are probably genuine asylum seekers fleeing, persecution or danger. But I think it seems very likely that certain criminal elements in certain countries sort of saw this as an easy way of getting people into the country. And we all know that one European country, which is not considered in any way unsafe, has been the source of many, many young men who've come to this country over the last 6 months. and you have to wonder what they're coming for. If you're coming from a safe country within Europe, you're coming to the UK, and you're coming across in a boat, you're not coming to work legally. And I think this is one of the problems. You see, when you block the legal routes, when you allow this huge business of small boats crossings to develop, people are going to take advantage of it, and that's what's happening now. It's if you want a metaphor, it's a bit like if you've got a wash basin in your bathroom and the tap is running all the time, you can't turn it off, and then you say one day, well, I'm going to weld up the waste pipe. And so the water builds up and builds up and builds up, and it gets to the point where it's just pouring over. It's all over the floor. It's all over your shoes and everything else. And you're saying, I'm not going to open it. I'm not going to open the waste pipe. No, I'm not going to open the waste pipe. I'm going to stop the water. And you get a thimble and you start running up and downstairs with the water in a thimble. It's just totally unrealistic. You have to provide safe routes, and you have to sort out this is just ridiculous waste of time in the Home Office. I don't think anybody can believe that it takes 15 months to process a claim when 75% at least of the claims are accepted. But anyway, it's as I say, this is all to fool people in the rebel seats who, frankly, probably couldn't care less, but very happy to turn all their anger and all their venom towards these dreadful people who are coming and causing so much problem. Takes their minds off all the reality of life at the moment under this government, and it's all stoked by this dreadful woman Braverman, and her predecessor Patel, who's even, well, I was going to say even worse, but she couldn't. Nobody's going to be worse than Braverman. Anyway, that's what I think about it. If you've watched this far, thank you very much, and until next time, bye for now.